Well, hello, I'm Chris, and this is my auto bodywork for beginners welding. We got this freaking rust hole right here. Okay, so we're gonna grind this out, and we're gonna determine whether we need to buy a patch panel for it, or if we can just make a little piece. You can pay me any dollar amount to replace this piece when it just has little tiny things like that. We can fix that, but may have to cut a little piece right here. So the first thing you want to do before you go crazy and start cutting stuff out, let's try to grind it out, see what we have going on. The reason I'm showing you how to do this is because that's why you don't just start cutting. This is the inner structure that's very important. It looks like we may have to cut this piece out and weld something in it or reinforce it. But right now we need to sandblast and see what exactly is left. So I'm going to put the camera far away because I don't want to screw up my camera, but we're going to sandblast inside and out, see what we're dealing with. Before you start cutting, you always want to get your patch panel and see exactly what you're dealing with, because that patch panel might be completely different and we might not even be able to use it. But hopefully the patch panel I get is going to fit perfect. Okay, so we got it cut out. This is all we cut out. That was all that was there. You always want to cut back farther enough to where you get good metal you can weld to that. Okay, so this is actually part of the inner fender. I've sandblasted the crap out of it and put some kind of rust converter on there, or prime it, or do something to it at least. But like I said, the point of all my videos is I do work like this, but I sandblast and freaking coat the crap out of this. This is gonna have a bath in bed liner. I'm gonna spray bed liner inside there until it is just running out, to completely freaking seal off all of this so it doesn't come back ever. All it has to do is support 5 little tacks. Got some kind of structure to it. Be a better idea just to leave it in there than to cut it out and weld it. But you do what you want to do on your car, but don't say I didn't warn you. Now this is a beginner bodywork video. The reason that I'm showing you where I'm cutting this and leaving these little rust holes is because I want beginners to understand that you don't always want to go crazy and start cutting this whole damn thing out, because this is good. This is straight. We don't want to screw our perfect quarter panel up. Well, it's not perfect. The other situation would be that this was a beat up piece. If this was beat up, you're damn right I would cut the whole damn thing out and put it in there. But in this case, it's perfect. You start welding quarter pieces in there, you're gonna warp the whole freaking panel. I don't care how expensive your welder is and how much experience you have, you are gonna warp the shit out of the whole quarter panel. This one is not warped. This quarter panel is perfect. So you can call me a dumbass, you can say that that's bullshit. It's not. It's really not. Sandblast and seal it off from the inside. That's the whole point of making a repair like this, is you can get to the inside. I just want new people to remember that. If you're doing work for somebody and you're charging money to do this for somebody, you're damn right I'd cut that out and I'd charge them as much money as I could to weld the whole damn thing in. Alright, now we need to take our patch panel, just make damn sure we cut a bigger piece than we cut out. This is the best thing to use when you're cutting one of these out. Now is where you take your freaking time, and we're gonna have to trim this down until it fits like a freaking puzzle piece in there perfect. You never ever 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 weld shit over like that. That is bullshit. Okay, never do that. Okay, so now we've got our piece real close. The reason we didn't mess with this is because it's gonna have a mounting point right here and a mounting point right here. So in other words, to square our piece off like that. So we're using that. It's where it needs to be. Now we're just cutting this in. We have this line left to do. It's very easy to screw up right here. I'm using a grinding disc and just taking a little bit off until I can see the line. Let's see how I do that. The most important part is right there. We're not running wheel trim on this car, so we gotta have that line that looks correct right there. What a lot of people forget on these patch panels is they just weld them in just around here, and that's fine, but they always forget that these are they're like clamped and spot welded or something right here. So we will be drilling our holes right there, and one at the bottom or two at the bottom. But just don't forget that. Always be aware that they're like pinch welded or spot welded. Got our piece ready. We've sandblasted everything around it. Got some holes drilled. It's very important that when you drill your holes, you kind of want to put a bevel on them. So I'm just using like whatever this is called. Okay, you always want to put something on the inside. We're gonna melt it a little bit, burn it a little bit when we weld, but anything you can do to it is better than nothing. You want to put a bevel on this. Okay. All right, so let's get this thing in place and let's start tacking it up. All right, the only thing you really need to do now is just make damn sure that your little patch panel don't stick out. Okay, so the most important thing that you need to know before you start welding this is that you will warp the shit out of this metal. You will just warp it so bad. So you're gonna do random tacks, and you gotta be patient and let this thing cool down. Don't get in a hurry or you'll screw it all up. Okay, well, you get the idea. We're gonna go ahead and I gotta fit this damn thing here. It's being stupid at the bottom, but I'm gonna go ahead and weld this thing up. We're just gonna keep doing it randomly. All right, well, now we're covering the welds up with Dynaglass, Dyna hair, kitty hair. Just try to float the whole thing with this. So we let this dry 100%. If you're a beginner or new at this, you never want to get in the habit of start trying to hit this stuff before it dries. Okay, so the reason that we put the fiberglass is only because we put the little tacks. We had to tack it like that so we didn't warp it, and I did not warp it, which is great. So now we're just grinding this off flat as possible. We're not doing any type of body work to this. We're just kind of sanding it flat. Okay, feels good, but it did warp it a little bit right here. So kind of stupid, but that usually always happens. So now you want to go ahead and knock your high spots down, whatever. Okay, so we got it all sandblasted, cleaned, ready to go. You see all I did there, I just skimmed it with the Dynaglass and went back and left a little bit on there. Okay, so you see what's going on right there, why I didn't want to cut all that out. It is pitted, but we sandblasted the freaking crap out of it, primed the crap out of it, and you see what's coming through the little green fiberglass. Now we're going to come back in here and back this too, but when we're done. But you see, that's why we cleaned this up real good. So just letting you know that if you are going to do it like that, you need to get to the other side, and we're going to finish this side too. But for right now, let's get started on the bodywork. And what I just showed you was the other side right there. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and float the whole thing with a body filler. You know, give it a good little layer like that. And as far as body fillers are, that's what you're paying for when you buy the $100 gallon. Is it smooth? It flows smoother and better, like polyester putty. This stuff obviously is the $30-something a gallon. To me, it does not freaking matter. We cut this down. No big deal. The most important thing you need to know is to let this stuff dry. Let it dry for an hour or two. Let it dry all day if you can. You never want to get in a habit of trying to cut this stuff down before it dries. That is for advanced body men. You don't, it's very tempting to do it. I don't do it. I'm not a production shop. But anyway, let that stuff cure. This is the foundation of all your body work and everything. It's very important that it dries right. All right, so now we're just taking a air file with 36 grit. Alright, so we're trying to blend it in. We know the panel is good right through here. So when we start seeing metal come through here, we're going to stop. Alright, well, you get the point. I'm going to keep filing it down till I get it ready. Alright, so it's got one pass of Bondo on it. We filed it down, blocked it a little bit. 3 coats of primer with a guide coat so we can kind of see where we are and where we need to fill. For one pass of Bondo on the whole quarter, it's not bad. Now what we do is all the low spots, we need to fill them with some polyester putty. Well, I have another video doing a quarter panel if you want to see how I do a quarter panel, but I'm going to go ahead and just kind of get this thing finished. Okay, now I'm assuming that you're somebody new at this. Now let's talk about some stuff, some real serious stuff before we go out there and look at the final result. I'm going to explain to you why I did it that way and the whole point of what's going on. So I make videos for beginners. I really want people to go out there and be able to do what I'm doing. And not everybody has anybody that can explain stuff to them or show them, so they got to go out there and guess for themselves. I had some rust right here, rust holes right here, little bitty rust holes right there. But let's talk about why I did it the way I did, so we all understand what's going on. The whole patch panel was this right here. Also this right here. These are like 30 spot welds right here that you got to undo, drill out and undo at the bottom. The main reason that I didn't do this is because a Chevelle has a weird bulge on the quarter panel right here. And if you cut this quarter panel, you can possibly warp the whole damn thing. Now, not all vehicles will warp whenever you're welding, but a Chevelle has some real thin ass, bullshit ass steel on the quarters and very likely to warp. These little holes that were in the video did not even exist until I started sandblasting from the inside. So that's why it's so freaking important that you get a sandblaster. You got to get all that freaking rust off of there and then coat what's left. Let's just say I cut like right here. Cut right in front of a little rust hole, about 1/2 inch from a little tiny rust hole. The reason I did that is because if you look down here, I didn't have to screw with any of those. And if you don't believe me, go ahead and replace yours all the way down here and tell me about how fun it was doing that bottom piece. Now I took a risk right here because from the inside this metal was still good. So in other words, I tacked right here and I kind of did not tack like right there, if that makes any sense. So it kind of had enough space right there where it all worked out fine. Okay, but the main thing that's going to happen is warping this panel, and I'm telling you, it's one of the hardest things to go through whenever you ran your hand down this quarter 100 times and then whenever you weld it and now you got this weird high spot in it, and it makes you really sick to your stomach because even as careful as I did that one, I still got a little tiny high spot right here. And people are talking about, oh, you can control the heat by spreading it out and putting water on it. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, but the problem is that this arc on this welder is getting so hot to melt steel, it doesn't really matter what you do to it. If it's going to warp, it's going to warp. Now, I'm specifically talking about the damn Chevelle quarter panel. I did a 67 C10, and I did not warp it. I also did a 67 fastback before, and I did not warp it. Maybe just a tiny bit, but not that bad. This damn Chevelle quarter panel is so freaking easy to warp. So that's one thing is maybe not all cars are going to be the same. Okay, and I've seen so many people just cut a panel off the car like that. And I've seen them take years and never even fix it. Now that panel I just did out there, it did it in about 2 days. I mean, that's cutting it out to spraying the quarter in sealer, and you'll see the final result in a second. Doing the inside, everything took me 2 freaking days. Okay, but all I'm trying to say that before you run out there and cut that panel off, if you don't know what you're doing entirely, you could possibly never finish your project. Now let's talk about the negative car. Okay, so let's say you bought 2 quarters for 1,500 bucks. You're gonna go out there and cut those quarters off, and you're probably gonna cut them off wrong. And now you got a car that is worth negative approximately $3,000 negative car, because now you got the quarters cut off or whatever the hell you cut off of it. You got the money you put into the freaking sheet metal, and now nobody wants to buy it. You don't even have your car anymore. You're out. Whatever. You're just out like everything. You're this now. This is you. Sad. Okay. So the point is, that you're trying to avoid having a negative car. Don't go crazy trying to cut stuff out if you don't know what you're doing, because even experienced body men will say, no, I don't want to do that job for you. I don't have the real estate, or the polite way to do it is he's just going to charge you like a freaking high amount of money to finish your car. Okay, so what I'm trying to tell you is don't go crazy cutting your car apart, because this dude right here, experienced body man, he don't even want to touch it after you chop that car up. Okay, so only point I'm trying to make, and I did take a sacrifice on my car. I would have liked to cut it there, but for a beginner video, I just thought that would be a better idea. Now, this repair that I made is not going to rust out in my lifetime. It's going to be the next bastard who gets his car and leaves it out in the rain, like the guy that had it before me. But if it ever rusts out, I will make an update video and I will say Chris Craft Bodywork fail, and I will show you where it rusted out, and then and I guess in that case we'll end up having to replace the whole thing, which for me is not a big deal. I can do work like that. If you think about stuff like that, you might end up looking like this guy whenever you get done. Now let's go check out the job, because I'm like this guy right now. Well, if you watch any of my videos, you know the quarter came out perfect, flawless, beautiful, but it's hard to get a good look on it, and the sealer's still drying, so let's just wrap this up. Okay, so this was actually the hardest part of the car. Just that on that one quarter is freaking ridiculous. Welding that freaking panel in did warp it a little bit at the bottom, causing extra body work. Came out perfect. There's a lot of work to get off your butt and get down here and do this area. I don't know if you can see the glare. I don't have any good lights in here. And whenever you're doing your car, this is also part of the quarter panel. See, I just did it lightly, but don't forget to do your body work under here, because it's all gonna hit you one day when you're at the muffler shop and you jack your car up and you didn't do any of the body work down here, and people are going to be making fun of you. So we're inside the trunk looking at the final result of the little rust holes. Been sandblasted thoroughly, epoxy primed, sealed, and now when we get this smoother in here, we might finish them off. We'll saturate this in bed liner, and if the rust holes ever come back, I'll make an update video. But I promise you, not in my lifetime. Well, if you liked the video, please subscribe. Thanks for watching.